105 Esoteric Traditions of the World Book 4, Future Seeds of Sealed Wisdom by Laing Z. Matthews. Chapter 2, Integral Vedanta, Sri Aurobindo. 1. Opening Vignette, When the Divine Chose to Descend. The afternoon heat in Pondicherry pressed like a still ocean against the ashram walls. Outside, the street was hushed, the clatter of carts and call of vendors absorbed by the thick white air. Inside, in a small upper room bare of ornament, Sri Aurobindo sat unmoving. To an onlooker, he might have seemed asleep or lost in thought, shoulders relaxed, head slightly bowed, hands resting in his lap. But inside, the sky was breaking open. It began as a pressure above him, not physical but undeniable, like the weight of an unseen sun. The silence in his mind was not emptiness, but a readiness, an open channel. Then, without warning, the light struck. A descent swift as gold lightning, wide as the horizon, dense with power. It did not stop at his head. It poured downward through his body, filling chest, belly, limbs, even the marrow of his bones. This was no metaphor. The cells themselves stirred, as if recognizing an ancient master. Every nerve vibrated with a joy too vast to be owned. The descent was not a visitation to be glimpsed and remembered. It was an arrival. Spirit was not hovering above the world, waiting to be ascended to. Spirit was here, taking matter into itself. The experience had no thought form, no scripture attached. It was not a realization in the mental sense. It was a flowering, petals of gold opening in every fiber of his being, upward to the infinite, downward into the earth. The two directions were one motion, one gesture, the divine pressing into matter, matter rising to meet the divine. He sat without movement for hours. Outside, the sun lowered, shadows lengthened, the street noises returned. Inside, the light remained. Not a trance, not a flight from the world, but an inhabiting of it so total that the distinction between spirit and body no longer held. When at last he opened his eyes, the room was unchanged. Bare walls, a wooden chair, a small writing table, but the atmosphere trembled. The air itself seemed alive, thick with the same gold that had entered his body. He knew without analysis that this was not for him alone. It was the seed of a future humanity, a species in which the divide between heaven and earth would be closed, not by renunciation, but by embodiment. Later, he would call it the descent of the supramental. But in that moment, it was not a doctrine. It was life itself choosing to become divine from the inside out. 2. Core teaching, spirit descends, not escapes. Classical Advaita Vedanta is one of the most refined philosophies of consciousness ever articulated. It holds that the world is Maya, not illusion in the trivial sense, but a veil woven over the changeless reality of Brahman. The body, the mind, the vast machinery of nature, these are appearances. Liberation, moksha, comes when the individual self, Jivatman, realizes its identity with the Absolute and sheds the bonds of birth and death. The trajectory is upward and inward. Leave the wheel of becoming, dissolve into pure being, awaken from the dream. Sri Aurobindo honored this inheritance, but he refused to accept its conclusion as the final truth. The world, he insisted, is not an error to be abandoned. Matter is not a prison to be broken out of. The divine is not merely above creation, looking down upon its swirling imperfection. The divine wants to be here, through every particle, every leaf, every human cell. His revolution was subtle in premise, seismic in implication. Spirit is not trying to escape matter. Spirit is trying to inhabit it fully. In this view, matter is not dead substance, it is slow spirit. The apparent inertia of the physical world is simply spirit in its most condensed form, waiting for the pressure of evolution to awaken it to its own divinity. The story of creation is not a tragic fall from the one into multiplicity. It is a journey of the one into infinite forms, with the goal of bringing its own perfection into every corner of the manifest world. In this light, the purpose of human life changes utterly. If the goal were only to transcend, then the sage's task would end at realization, and the world would be left to run its imperfect course. But if the goal is transformation of matter, life, and mind themselves, then realization is only the beginning. The liberated soul does not withdraw. It works as a conscious instrument of the divine's own unfolding here on earth. Sri Aurobindo gave this vision a simple, almost deceptively casual phrase. All life is yoga. It was not a motto for aspirants to paste above their desks. It was a blueprint for evolution. Every act, every relationship, every labor of the hands or the mind can be part of the process by which spirit shapes itself more fully in matter. This process has a trajectory, and Sri Aurobindo named its decisive movement the supramental descent. The supramental is not an elevated form of mind. It is a plane of consciousness beyond mind entirely, as distinct from thought as thought is from sensation. In the supramental, truth is not pieced together. It is known directly as a self-existent whole. It does not oppose form, it informs form, shaping it from within, so that spirit and substance are not separate realities, but one seamless expression. To understand how the supramental descent works, Sri Aurobindo framed creation as a double movement: involution and evolution. Involution is the original descent of the divine into the depths of matter, spirit folding itself into energy, into life, into form, into the apparent unconsciousness of physical reality. It is the hiding of the seed in the soil. Evolution is the corresponding ascent, the slow awakening of that hidden divinity through the stages of matter, life, mind, and beyond. In nature, this is seen in the emergence of consciousness from inanimate matter, life from chemistry, mind from life. But for Sri Aurobindo, these were not random leaps. They were the rediscovery of what had been present all along. In this arc, the human being is a transitional form, a bridge between mind and what lies beyond it. Our task is not to perfect the human as it is, but to serve as the channel for the next stage of evolution, the supramental being in whom the divine consciousness is not glimpsed, but lived in the body. To reach this, integral yoga is not about withdrawal into monastic silence or forest seclusion. It is an offering of the whole of life to the divine: work, art, relationship, thought, and physical existence. The laboratory is the world itself, and the transformation is cellular as much as spiritual. The aim is not simply for the soul to be free, but for the body to become a fit dwelling for the light that has always been its secret essence. Central to this work is the psychic being, the evolving soul at the heart of the individual. In classical Vedanta, the self is already perfect and unchanging. In Sri Aurobindo's vision, the psychic being grows through lifetimes, gathering experience and turning the nature Godward. It is the inner guide, the part of us already aligned with the divine's intention. Integral yoga begins not with the suppression of life, but with a progressive surrender to this inner presence, allowing it to shape the mind, life force, and body into its own image. The map of consciousness in Sri Aurobindo's work includes mind, the realm of thought, analysis, and imagination, brilliant but limited, prone to division. Overmind, a vast and luminous plane where the one is seen through multiple truths, each radiant but still distinct, like rays from the same sun. Supermind, supramental, the original creative consciousness, where truth and form are one. This is the level at which the divine knows itself in manifestation, the consciousness that can transform matter because it never lost unity with it. This is not Vedanta 2.0, nor is it merely yoga philosophy with a